Hi everyone, I'm Cory, and as Malika mentioned, I have a very personal story to share with you today that comes from very professional roots and a very professional context right here at the International ACAC conference. 2 years ago, I was on the upstate New York bus tour. How many of you have taken the bus tour before? Amazing! They're so fun. They're like counselor rehab on wheels. A chance to watch the trees go by, a chance to talk to colleagues who understand your dilemmas at work, a chance to hear about work in other parts of the world and become rejuvenated, and just see some new places and meet some new people. They are fabulous opportunities. If you haven't taken one, I'd highly recommend it. So July 2017, I'm on the bus tour in upstate New York, and I'm with, oh, there's some familiar faces here to you. Yes. I'm with some of the scholars. The scholar program is in its 5th year. We started allocating spaces on each of the bus tours to the scholars, and instead of the large masses that we have here at the conference, it was an amazing opportunity to get to hear about the work that they were doing and to really connect and have greater conversation, deeper conversation. So Ava is working with young women in Nairobi, Kenya. Fernando was teaching AP courses, helping refugee Ethiopian students in Cairo, Egypt. And Shabana, beside me, you heard about yesterday. Very inspirational woman. She started the first boarding school for girls in Afghanistan and was doing incredible work in Kabul and under highly difficult situations. So at the end of our time together, we're trading cards, we're saying farewell at the airport, and as a mentor and board member, I said, keep in touch. If you ever need anything, reach out. And they did. This is where it gets personal. Shabana calls me a month later to tell me about a student named Azmat. Azmat is the oldest of 6 children, grew up in Kabul, Afghanistan, an outstanding student by all accounts, winner of literature prizes, math contests, very keen to continue his education, also keen to have an international and global perspective on the world. The family was getting a lot of pressure from the Taliban that he be recruited to support their efforts. And he didn't want to go down that pathway, and nor did his family. Shabana had helped Azmat get a scholarship to a school in San Diego, where he had spent a good part of the year. Partway through that year, the Trump administration announced the travel ban on several Islamic countries, and the xenophobia that perhaps that administration has been encouraging was growing, and Azmat's school in San Diego decided that they could not continue issuing his scholarship. So at the end of grade 10, his study permit wouldn't be renewed, and now he was in a very difficult position because his family also knew that there were growing threats from the Taliban against him and his family. So nor could he go back to Kabul, Afghanistan. So in the end of his grade 10 year, having just turned 16 years old, he made a very difficult decision and traveled north from California to Washington, took a bus, and stood in the bushes for several hours until it got dark, and walked across the border into Canada. You can imagine what that must have been like for a 16-year-old. So when Shabana reached out to me, she said, the brother of one of my students may be in Canada and may need some support. Could you be a resource to him? And I found that to be very strange wording, and I didn't quite understand why she was saying may. It was because she didn't know, in fact, where he was or what had happened. I think those first few days, certainly hours, in being detained and eventually being sent to a hostel downtown Vancouver were very trying ones and very scary ones for this young man. And eventually, because he was over the age of 16, he was not considered a ward of the state, and he was not assigned to a foster family, and he was not really given much oversight. He was considered old enough to fend for himself with some social assistance. His caseworker had the wherewithal to understand that as a 16-year-old, that was going to be very difficult, and also recognized that there was a greater Afghan network in Ontario than there would be in British Columbia. So she transferred his file to Toronto so that he could go to the community center in Scarborough and perhaps seek assistance there. At which point, him and I became acquainted. And from the very first day I met him, he seemed quite exceptional. He was always very polite. He was always carrying a bag of his documents, always ready to give whatever was necessary to make the next steps happen. And it became apparent very early on that he was going to do whatever it took to continue his education and to make things right. So we hung out in public spaces, because I don't know who this kid is. I barely know Shabana. It's a bit of a risk. Not nearly the risk that he took, but a significant risk. Eventually we go to a ball game. He knows cricket, so he's trying to pertain it to cricket, and it was good fun. We also, serendipitously, 2 Turkish guys sitting behind us. He spoke Turkish. I understood some Turkish from prior work. The world was starting to feel very small. Azmat was very self-directed. He understood the public bus routes in Toronto very quickly, and had also taken it upon himself to try and walk into a high school in Toronto and enroll himself in classes. You can drop out of high school at the age of 16 without your parents' permission in Ontario, but you can't enroll in classes without a parent or guardian signature on your application. He was stunned. I was stunned. I'm a guidance counselor in Ontario, and I don't think that I had really contemplated what that would mean for a student whose family wasn't with him. So we started thinking about how could we provide something a little more sustainable for Azmat. He was staying with people from his country. He was eating a lot of scrambled eggs and ramen noodles. He needed something a little more supportive. So I started calling boarding schools around Ontario, because I thought they can put a roof over his head, they can give him 3 meals a day, they can educate him, help him get through high school. The only thing is, it's August. On both sides of the desk, we know there's not really any money left in August, and it would take some divine intervention to make that happen. That divine intervention came through Ridley College in St. Catharines, Ontario. Who just prior to Labor Day weekend said, "Sure, Azmat, we'll give you a $65,000 renewable scholarship so that you can come and be an IB student in grade 11 and 12 here with us so you can finish high school." Ridley College is an IB school. They understood the importance of international mindedness. They saw this as an opportunity for their community to learn firsthand from a young Muslim man what the world looks like through his eyes, and they really stepped up to the plate. The day we arrived, Julie Cameron on the left, the director of admission, had personally gone out and bought the bed sheets and the comforter to put on his bed. That brings me to tears nearly every time. Ridley was amazing. So they had him there a week after school started, but he jumped right in. He took whatever courses were available at that time, and we made a timetable that would fit. I'm a counselor. I didn't want to be the helicopter parent. But I thought, there's a lot riding on this. There's my reputation with Ridley, there's his future, there's a million things that could go wrong. And I understand the worry that parents hold in a whole new way. A whole new way. I worried that he was just going to eat scrambled eggs and ramen noodles for 2 years and no vegetables. I worried that his headaches were going to be some huge medical illness. I worried that his post-traumatic stress might derail his education. I worried that he might meet friends that weren't necessarily influential in most positive ways. A million things. So we decided that every Sunday we would talk. So the second Sunday, I said, how's it going? What do you do this week? He said, I joined the rowing team. I said, the rowing team? I said, why rowing? He says, because I can't do that in Afghanistan. But of course. And then I worried again, can he swim? The kid stepped up. He stepped up every single day. And he had an amazing time, and he was accepted because of his fluidity to step in and out of leadership positions, because of his ability to relate to kids from North America and South America and the Middle East and the Far East and all over the world. And at the end of his first year there, this community elected him a prefect, a school leader for grade 12. Yeah. He joined the World Affairs Conference, the Model United Nations. He just didn't stop. It was really something to see. And my colleagues at Branksome Hall would see me come back beaming with pride after every parent-teacher interview, and I was that parent. Yeah. Having ASMAT around was also an opportunity to introduce my own family to the wider world. And I think you become far more sensitive to the xenophobia in the world when you have someone with some kind of otherness in your life. And I would say having ASMAT around taught me to live with uncertainty in ways that I could only, occasionally understand. He lived with a great deal of uncertainty, and I had glimpses of that, certainly as we went through the college admissions process. And as he would talk to his family and said, each time he Skyped them, he didn't know if that would be the last time they would talk, because bombing in Kabul is still quite a common occurrence. And so it was an incredible chance to be a maternal figure in a way that I had never encountered before through my professional life. And as a single woman and as an expat who traveled the world, like many of you, that sense of family had been elusive in some ways, that now was being formed in a very unique way. I won't go into the college admissions process, because the next video kind of explains it.
Meet ASMAT, a grade 12 student refugee from Afghanistan. Seeing him casually walking around our campus, it's difficult to imagine all the steps it took him to get here, including an on-foot journey across the Canadian border in 2017. At the age of 16, after more than a year spent alone in a country far removed from his friends and family, ASMAT was introduced to a guardian who immediately recognized his potential. Although Cory Miller knew ASMAT had the talent and global focus to achieve great things, it was only when Ridley College, a prestigious school in St. Catharines, Canada, stepped up to financially support ASMAT's high school education, that the hope to nurture his unique gifts became a reality. As a student refugee, ASMAT understands the challenges of integrating into a new community, while also navigating the complexities of a foreign language. That's why he established the Rooted Justice 2020 Club to support migrant workers, and led an initiative to bring a student from Malawi to Canada, so they too could access the life-enhancing experiences that would have otherwise been denied to them, simply based on where they were born. ASMAT is not the type of person who just dreams of a day when everyone has equal access to education. By engaging with Model United Nations and the World Affairs Conference, he is actively helping to shape that future, and his efforts have continued to be acknowledged within and beyond his school community. Like his guardian, peers, and current school leadership, Huron believes hard work and selfless giving deserve to be recognized, and we want ASMAT to believe that too. So while he thinks he is simply visiting our campus for a tour, we have planned something bigger, much bigger. Today, in celebration of his exceptional academic and extracurricular achievements, we're going to present ASMAT with a full 4-year scholarship to Huron, the largest in our history.
I want to take this opportunity to tell you not just how happy I'm to meet you. This is your letter of acceptance to Huron and your full scholarship.
Thank you so much.
We would love to have you be part of our community, my friends.
thank you to Huron College. If any of you are in the room today, this was an exceptional step of opportunity. And I would say it was the next step in people taking risks beyond the bureaucracy of life and saying, let's see what happens. We don't have any other options, right? He seems amazing, and let's find a way to make this happen. So the internet blew up, and the Prime Minister heard about it, and that's been quite the turn of events for ASMAT. And yesterday we heard about the imposter syndrome, and I must say it is extremely, extremely uncomfortable to accept praise about this story. But it is one that I am very proud to share, because I think it's an example that I hope you don't need to replicate and bring a kid into your house. But it's an opportunity to think about how you can make a difference at a very personal level, and that our work can sometimes overlap between the professional and the personal, particularly in this organization. And that sometimes our humanity must go beyond the bureaucracies that surround us, and that the opportunities in life to really, really make a difference are there at every turn, and that we really, can take it upon ourselves sometimes to reach out. And it has been an absolute joy. I realized in the video that I forgot to tell you, I became his legal guardian. Because that was the key to enrolling him in school, for high school. And afterwards, people said, what? What did you do? And I said, I could. I had a roof over my head. I had the skills to help. Why not? Why not? And so I share this story with you today to inspire you to sometimes say, why not? And expand that impact where you can. Thank you for listening today.